friend. Welcome to Wild and Waking, a sacred space for the woman unraveling what no longer fits, remembering the truth that's always lived inside her, reclaiming her joy, her voice, her power, and rising fully, fiercely, and without apology. I'm your host, Emily Rushell, and together we'll explore what it means to live in alignment, lead with soul, and awaken a life of abundance, authenticity, and purpose. Let's begin. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Wild and Waking. Today, we are celebrating 4 years of the podcast. 4 years. 4 years to me always feels like an incremental number as like a milestone. For example, at least where I grew up, we went to middle school for 4 years and then had middle school graduation. And then we go to high school for 4 years and have high school graduation. And then we go to college for 4 years and have college graduation. So I have been podcasting alongside of you for as long as someone pursues a degree, which is crazy. And today I wanted to take a few moments to just reflect back on what those 4 years has had in store for me, for the podcast, for my journey, what I have learned along the way, what I thought I knew then, what I know now, and all of the above. And if you are a longtime listener, thank you so much for being here every single step of the way. I have a very specific memory of when Jill, my podcast producer that I've been working with since day one, sent me the official, when the show was actually live on Apple with the trailer. I was driving. I was down in Kentucky with my family visiting my brother and sister-in-law. Andrew had gone ahead to my brother's house with the kids or something. I don't know. For whatever reason, I was alone in the car and I got the text from Jill and I clicked on it and I listened to the trailer for Gather and Growth is what the podcast was called at the time. And I sobbed. I mean, sobbed because it was so surreal. And now podcasting is such a casual part of my life. It is literally 8:30 at night. My kids are outside with my husband. I'm like, oh yeah, I have an episode I need to record effective immediately. And I remember recording my first 3 episodes, literally shaking. I was so nervous and it felt so monumental. It had been something I'd been considering for many years. Even though I had been sharing online for a few years up until that point, something about podcasting just felt like, I've always said, standing naked on the street corner. It was an invitation into my inner world in a way that was different than anything I'd ever done before. It was an invitation into being misunderstood or misinterpreted or whatever. And now I joke you can't hurt me. I live in a town of 42 people and share all of my thoughts with the internet at large. If you really want to know the dirt, I have hours and hours and hours of my own podcast. And I don't know, gosh, dozens and dozens and dozens of interviews that I've been on. There's not a lot that you're going to figure out that's going to hurt my feelings. And it's been such a ride. There's a statistic most podcasts don't make it past the first 10 episodes. And here we are at 200 and something. I have missed exactly 1 week. There is only one time that an episode did not air on a Thursday. And it was last summer when I was so sick. And I just could not scrape any ounce of capacity to record literally anything. And I was like, Jill, I really had a complex about it, but I was like, I literally can't. Do I have regrets about that? Now? Yes, because I can't say that I've never missed a week, but it was what I needed at the time. Even this year, really over the past year and some change, as my business has massively evolved and also kind of been put on a shelf in this postpartum season and being really present with my family, the podcast has been the one true constant that has continued to be there. And although I am often weeks behind on putting up a graphic on my Instagram or sharing about it, it's still there. And there are hundreds, if not so many more than that, of you that faithfully listen every week and send me messages and share your sentiments. And some of you have joined us along the way. And I know many, many, many of you have been here cheerleading and evolving and learning and growing right along with me, which I think is the coolest part of having a podcast in this very specific season of my life. I was going back and scrolling through old episodes. Now, for context, for anyone who has joined fairly recently, I really built my business, my following, my thought leadership, my platform, my whatever you want to call it, in the space, in this like niche that I created of personal and professional development for specifically women in small town and rural communities. So when I scroll back to early episodes, it's like a phrase I keep coming back to over the past year has been like, everything is changing and nothing is changing. Like some of these titles are still so relevant. Like, what do you actually want your life to look like? How do you find the blend between life and business? Like, how do you define enough and find joy in the journey? And then some of them are like 5 morning habits for success. Ugh. How to maximize drive time as a rural mom. LOL. You know what I'm doing in the car? This was 4 years ago. My kids were a lot less opinionated about what we do in the car. You know what I do in the car as a rural mom? I survive and or turn up music as loud as possible so everyone can just sing along and not fight. But if you go back to the first year of the podcast, oh my gosh, I had guests that I am still deeply connected to today. I just look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was really freaking doing the thing. I'm so proud of myself. Just for context and timeline, I started my Instagram account in June of 2020. It was like August, September of 2021 that I left my full-time job to jump feet first into entrepreneurship. And this podcast launched in August of 2022. And when this podcast launched, I had 2 children. And, pretty soon into that, like hit this crashing wall, having to confront my addictions to approval and achievement. That's when I started therapy. You guys walked through that alongside of me. I remember the moment I shared on the podcast that I was pregnant with my 3rd. And it was like, the episode was like the journey I was never expecting. Oh my God, that girl had no idea what we were in for. And then you can see in real time as not only I was evolving, but my comfort level was evolving, and like the safety and security in which I was willing to share on different topics was evolving. And you can watch this evolution of like the things that I was massively curious about or exploring. And in so many ways, like the podcast was a really powerful tool for me to go on this growth journey alongside of you. So much of the podcast has been like me also in the position of learning and just exploring. In reflecting back, like very little of it has actually been teaching in the way that a lot of other podcasts are structured. And I actually really love that, because I think for many of us, as these topics have evolved and changes, and we've been dabbling into things that have not been represented to us, maybe by our families, our communities, our friends, like it gave us the permission to be able to sit with an episode and be like, okay, I'm curious about this thing. This environment feels safe, but I get to explore this and see what it's like. And if it lights me up, if it pings my curiosity, I can go further. And if not, like, that's okay. It was like 45 minutes of my day, and that's fine. And in so many of the ways, as I was learning new information, as I was reading so many books, as I was, shedding and releasing conditioning and belief systems and ideas that were no longer serving me, and starting to like fill in or uncover or remember all of these other things when I didn't feel like that information had integrated enough for me to speak to it well. I was able to reach out to women who are in different parts of their journey with different lived experiences, with different wisdom and knowledge to share. And it's a way that we got to go through it together. And I freaking love that. And so as I am reflecting, I also invite you to reflect on this journey that we have been on together. Or if you are relatively new to the podcast, hi, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I just invite you to look at the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of your life also. Because I think sometimes we get so caught up in what is right in front of us in the day to day, or in all of the ways that we are moving and growing or desiring and like, focusing on what comes next or the things that we're working on or who we're growing into, that, this is the gap in the gain mentality, right? We forget to measure backward of just how far we've come and how much really truly can change in less than 5 years. By all accounts, like I'm living in the same house. I have been through a house flood. There's also a few episodes on that. I, of course, have brought 2 more kids into the world, but like I'm still married to my husband who's a farmer. We live in this house. Like our kids have gotten older and life has changed in some of those ways. But also, even though there is so much constant, like my reality has also completely transformed. My worldview has completely transformed. My belief system, my faith, my spirituality, the things that I have understood and tapped into myself are completely different, and or have been like uncovered and discovered, and we're always there, and we're just like hidden by these like blockades and walls or rules or expectations or conditions that had been built or handed to me along the way. So I invite you to, at some point in time today, put on, I don't know, relaxing music, listen to nothing, go on a walk, whatever works for you, and just really think about all of the ways that you have grown. Or if you have been here with me for a long time, I invite you to like pause, or after you're done listening, and scroll back through this podcast feed. Used to be Gather and Growth. We switched to Wild and Waking last summer, and see if you remember some of those episodes. Like, I will never forget the moment. This episode came out on February 2nd of 2023, talking to one of my guests about the different phases of the menstrual cycle. I will never forget that moment that she started sharing this information. And it was literally like where has this been all my life? And now that information, like we've talked about it a million times on the podcast in a million different ways, like that information is so just integrated in every way I see myself and my work and my body and the world. Like, but that was brand new information. Or I remember bringing some clients that I had worked with on the show and talking about their evolutions. And now, like, gosh, Kayla Zenner came on May 2023. She was just on the freaking Food Network. 100 Cook Show. I haven't got to watch it yet because we don't actually have like cable. I don't even know how to watch it, but like being able to see the evolution of like the people who have been a part of this since the beginning. Kate House came on in June of 2023. She just released a book that I got to write the foreword to. It's just so freaking cool. So freaking cool. So I invite you to scroll back, and maybe it's not this podcast. Maybe you can think of another creator or a podcast that you have been faithfully listening to over the years. I invite you to take a second to go back and scroll through, because some of those titles may very well trigger a moment in time where you learned something new, had a realization, or like a conversation that truly altered a piece of your life or the way that you see the world. Like, and look back to see when that happened and like what has really truly changed since then. Oh my gosh, I literally scrolling through these, I remember every single one of these conversations. Like, what a freaking gift that we have got to have them. What have I learned along the way? Okay, first of all, I 100% the permission to evolve, the permission to explore. I think there's also an antidote of like curiosity is the key. Like, we are never done learning, we are never done evolving, and that doesn't freak me out. Like, that's so exciting. I think at any moment in time, we get to define what is true for us in that moment. But like, everything is true and nothing is true. And like, you get to decide what the rules are and like what expectations you hold yourself accountable to. You get to decide everything. And like, literally, the world is available to you to consider and explore and connect. Oh, so freaking cool. I think another takeaway from the podcast is just the power of shared wisdom between women is what is changing the world. I believe that that has been intentionally severed and disconnected over generations, because when women share information, when women share lived wisdom, when women share ideas, it gets the ball rolling to explore and to ask really critical questions of the systems and structures and people that are keeping you small and stuck. And so it has been truly the gift of a lifetime to be able to invite so many of these women into this space and hear not just their life stories, but their expertise, their, things that they've really come to understand, the dots that they've connected, because that gives permission and language for your experience. The number of times I have gotten a message that's like, I didn't even know that this was called, or like, oh my gosh, I've known that all along. There's a name for it. Other people are thinking about this too. Like, to be able to sit in a conversation with someone from halfway around the world and like hear their story or their reflections and ideas in such a way that like gives you that me too moment is like the greatest wash of relief ever. Like, we think we're so alone and unique in our experience. And that's not to say that you are not unique. You do not have something beautiful to offer the world, but like, you're not the only one going through it. I think it has also been like, having a podcast in itself has been such a gift to invite conversations or like build relationships with people that, how do I even want to say this? Like, I would have no other reason to, or like we wouldn't have gotten connected in this way, or we wouldn't have spent an hour together just with the intention of like sharing information, right? Many, 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 many of my guests I could have hired or I have hired in some capacity. And that's incredible, right? I believe that women hiring and supporting and sharing wealth distribution through each other is also going to radically change our economy in the way that we experience the world. But like, to just invite someone in for a conversation to like excavate their lived experience and like capture what is on their heart in a moment in time is like a really special space. And I'm so grateful for that. And I am endlessly grateful for the screenshots that you send me or the accounts that you find and you're like, this would make a great podcast guest. Like, so many of our guests have come from your recommendations as well. So I really appreciate that. Other things that I have learned. I think that podcasting has also just given me like the continual experience, and maybe it's like exposure therapy of something, but I truly believe anything is possible. Like, I have a microphone, I have a computer, I have the internet, like, it's all out there, and like, it's yours for the taking. I think sometimes we put ourselves in a position of like, oh, I can't do this, or I don't have this, or I don't have a following, or I don't have a platform, I don't have this, but like, every single person on the internet is one message away from you. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but like, I have the utmost audacity to know that like, I fully believe I could get anyone on my podcast if I want to. Like, why not? Right? I think there's something to be said with like consistency and showing up and evolution and like, I want to say clear messaging, but also with the boundary of like knowing it can evolve, right? And in so many ways, my podcast still is for the woman who is growing and evolving and gathering us together for that intended purpose. Of course, now it has sparked this whole new fire of awakening and deconstructing and feminine rage and dismantling systems of harm, right? And like really committing to the work of ourselves. But at the same time, like that's consistent with the intention from the beginning. It has just changed as we have as well. So this is just, like I said, a moment of celebration, a piece of gratitude for being here, a cheers to the next 4 years and beyond. I think this moment in time also gives so much inspiration and permission for what lies ahead. Here's the literal evidence we have of what can happen in 4 years. So whatever is on your heart now, podcast, business, motherhood, health, healing, presence, awareness on a certain topic, like building expertise in an area, nurturing relationships, building friendship, like whatever you have started or are nurturing or are being called towards, like now is the time to begin if you feel like it is, right? I think everything comes at the right time, but like, please don't get discouraged in the I'm never going to get there, I'm behind, like little old me mentality, because 4 years from now, like literally anything is possible. 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years ago, 5 years, 10 years from now, like it really does come down to the moment that you do it scared. It's the name of my first episode. You say yes and you continue to commit and show up in whatever cadence that looks like for you. And knowing that like you are building the bricks of the foundation of what's to come. You're depositing in the bank of your success in that area. I know that some of the episodes I have put out, I'm like, whoo, not my best work. But like it's there. And it's a moment in time. And the very imperfect way in which I show up gives you permission to be the same. So I'll leave you with that. Again, thank you so much. I look forward to many, many years to come. And if you are listening to this, I would love a quick note from you on what this podcast means to you, what this community has meant for you, what ideas or changes have sparked as a result of the conversations that we've had together. It has truly been an honor and one of the biggest blessings of my life to get to be in this space with you. So until next time, thank you. I'm seriously so forever grateful. Hey friend, I hope this conversation sparked something real in you, something that feels like truth, curiosity, or the courage to keep becoming. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to share it. Take a screenshot, post it to your stories, or send it to one of your friends. You can always find me over on Instagram at Emily Rushel, where I love continuing these conversations and hearing your takeaways. Truly, your DMs are one of my favorite parts of podcasting, so don't be shy. I'd love to reflect and connect with you over there. I'm so grateful to be surrounded by a community of women who ask hard questions, sit in the discomfort of the unknown, blaze new paths forward, and ultimately come home to their wild and waking selves. See you next week.